These cards used to be really good until 2018 when they stopped seeing play. What's going on, guys? This is Miasin back at it with another discussion video, this time trying to figure out why the Mirror Force cards just aren't seeing play anymore. Is it because people are just not down to just have trap cards in their decks? And if they do play trap cards, it's only Infinite Impermanence, which is barely even a trap card at this point. Or is it because of other reasons? Well, today I'm going to try to analyze it as much as I possibly can, and therefore I would like to ask you guys, if it's not impossible, to like and subscribe. Would seriously motivate me a lot to keep making videos like these. Alright, let's jump right into it. Okay, so I'm going to first start out with one possible reason why people are not really playing Mirror Force cards anymore. Well, they are inherently flawed in a sense because they are normal trap cards. That's bad for multiple reasons. First of all, trap cards are just a bit more slow. That's usually not always a bad thing. For example, Torrential Tribute being able to break boards. Mirror Force kind of used to be similar in a way-ish. With today's metagame, it's not really as efficient because if your opponent has multiple negations, it's not going to be doing too much. It doesn't really function as a counter trap. It just trades 1-for-1 for a negation, and that negation can stay on the field, like I don't know, Cyber Dragon Infinity, Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon, Borreload Savage. You don't really have to lose anything to negate a card, so Mirror Force just doesn't really trade well in that aspect. Not to mention that every Mirror Force card out there, except literally Dark Mirror Force, but that doesn't really count, they only affect attack position monsters. So for literally ever, like since the very first Mirror Force, so Mirror Force existed back in the days, people already kind of had an idea on how to consistently play around Mirror Force by putting their strongest monsters in defense and only attacking with the weaker monsters. So if your opponent were to Mirror Force you, that's not the end of the world because you get to keep the really relevant cards on the field. In modern day Yu-Gi-Oh, mind games are just less and less relevant, and for Mirror Force cards you can even argue that they're 100% irrelevant because, come on, who plays Mirror Force cards right now? And even if they become popular again, what people can unfortunately do is make a Phoenix and then a Unicorn and then an Access Code Talker, and that's it. Your Mirror Force cards are just not proactive cards, and the less proactive cards you have, the less likely you are to stop your opponents in their tracks. Being able to just link climb up and destroy all of your cards like that. Phoenix is one, Unicorn is another one. Access Code can sometimes pop like 3 or 4 cards. If you're playing against a deck like Salamangreat, one single debug already gets you Access Code Talker that can pop 3 cards and attack twice directly, so you can literally start your turn with 3 Mirror Force and still get OTK'd by one single monster. Or if he's not trying to go into Access Code, well, Double Heat Leo can just shuffle back your Mirror Force cards. You get what I'm saying, right? If you have a card like Mirror Force, you can only use it during your opponent's battle phase, which is already a bad start. So if your opponent has the ability to get rid of your cards on his own main phase, yeah, we're kind of screwed. Another kind of bad thing about the Mirror Force cards is that it doesn't really have the desired impact against everyone. Let me explain myself. If you're playing against like Prime Thunder Dragon with like the regular Mirror Force, you can't really Mirror Force a Thunder Dragon Colossus, that's the name in the TCG. So yeah, he's just going to banish 3 Thunder monsters and then like get a bunch of triggers. And if you go like Storming a Mirror Force instead, well, what happens if you bounce back a bunch of Pendulum monsters or a bunch of main deck monsters? Not really a neg there. Drowning Mirror Force is a bit easier to read, but a bit less popular. And then Quaking Mirror Force used to be kind of the better one. Obviously, there are still some ways to kind of not lose to Quaking Mirror Force. For example, if you attack with a bunch of Link monsters, or if you attack with monsters that can be fusion summoned, and then on main phase 2 you just fuse because monsters that are face down still have names. So you get the point. You can't really consistently rely on Mirror Force cards to carry you. And a very modern example of that would be against Sky Striker. None of the Mirror Force cards are even somewhat close to being playable against the deck because it literally helps your opponent. You go Mirror Force or Storming or Drowning, whatever. The Storming and Drowning would be dreadful. Like, yeah, I get back my Kigari, I get back the Ray from the grave. I can attack for even more damage because this time I have the 15 from Ray, and I can tag out to summon like a Hayate and then attack again. So definitely not where you're trying to go. Now for the pros that the Mirror Force cards have, well, they do get rid of a lot of monsters, and when your opponent is cocky enough to not really play around the card whatsoever, it can actually be one of the biggest blowouts. And I want to say a format where Mirror Force cards are playable is a format where the game is actually in a pretty good state to a certain extent. In Zodiac format, it was kind of insane. It was a bit too much, but since back removal didn't exist too much, well, okay, Twin Twister kind of ruined it, and Tornado Dragon eventually came, but whatever, you get the point. There weren't that many ways to kind of deal with Mirror Force-esque cards, so you could actually sit on like Quaking, Drowning, whatever, Storming, and it would usually resolve and bounce back or destroy or a bunch of monsters your opponent controlled, allowing you to have a follow-up, or I mean rather a comeback on the next turn. But yeah, in conclusion, because of their inability to assure a successful resolution, I want to say consistently, their reactive nature, and also their lack of power in certain matchups, unfortunately people just decided to scrap them and shift to cards that were a bit more reliable, even though their impact on the game state was a bit weaker. So what do you guys think of Mirror Force cards? Do you believe the game would be better if they came back again? Do you think Konami should create like a hand trap version of the Mirror Force cards, or maybe a Spell Speed 4-esque version of the Mirror Force, and by that I mean a Mirror Force that can't really be responded to, so regardless of the amount of interruptions your opponent has, if you flip that Mirror Force, it successfully resolves, or like a Waking the Dragon-esque Mirror Force, where if your opponent Phoenixes or like Access Code Talkers it, your opponent is going to get punished because you can use the effect to do something. Obviously not like summon a monster from your extra deck, because Waking the Dragon already does that. Do something like destroy all defense position monsters your opponent controls, or like attack position monsters, we never know. Yeah, there are so many ways to kind of make the Mirror Force cards good again, and this is one thing that I've really been wanting to do for quite a while, because they are some of my favorite cards in the entire game, specifically Drowning Mirror Force. That's my personal favorite out of all of them. But yeah, I don't know what you guys actually think. Let us all know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me a lot to keep making some of these, and I will see you next time. Peace.